For more on the fallout from that troop withdrawal, let's welcome in our panelists for the hour. Happy to be joined by Bobby Eberle, Republican strategist and host of the 13-Minute News Hour. Also with us, Jesse Jane Duff, Gunnery Sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps retired and a Newsmax contributor, and Ford O'Connell, attorney and Republican strategist here as well. Panelists, great to see you. Thank you for coming on today. Let's start off this conversation with a soundbite from President Biden. This was just over a month ago in July. Here's the president.
There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of an embassy of the United States from Afghanistan. It is not at all comfortable.
Yet, as the AP has been reporting, the Biden administration rushing 3,000 troops to the Kabul airport to help with the partial evacuation of the U.S. embassy. Jesse Jane, I'll go to you. What's your analysis of how the situation in Afghanistan is playing out right now?
You know, it's obviously a level of destruction that we had not expected. But with this administration, they've been so unclear and indecisive. Their messaging has been all over the place. First of all, they removed their troops in the dead of night out of a base that left the Afghan forces flat-footed. Didn't even inform our allies what we were doing. That is just ridiculous. You don't do operational warfare in that manner. You always keep your allies abreast of what your next step is, where you're going, what you're doing, so that they are prepared. This collapse is to be expected because the Biden administration has not worked cohesively with the Afghans and the tribal units that they have in place. Instead, now they've actually pushed many of the tribal units towards the Taliban. This is something that now we cannot sit here and say we're not going to have liftings off of the embassy like in Saigon, because it looks exactly like what we're getting ready to do. United States Marines, when they evacuated that embassy in Saigon, let's not forget, Marines were killed doing it. I pray that the troops we send over there are safe and are okay, because this is uncalled for. This should have been planned in advance. Why are we now doing a 19th hour crazy fire drill, as if we didn't realize that we were pulling out so rapidly that we would cause the uprising of the Taliban? Shame on the Biden administration for doing this in such a destructive and uncohesive way.
And we had that August 31st deadline where the president wanted to bring all the troops home. Of course, that had been moved up previously from September 11th. Bobby, it makes you wonder about the preparation, or really the lack of preparation, when it comes to these Afghani residents here. When you see just the speed in which the Taliban is able to take over these cities, talk to me about perhaps how we weren't anticipating it to be this fast.
Well, I mean, this is something, when we talk about the military operation, we should also look at the State Department and Joe Biden's policies as well, because this is a long history in Afghanistan. Look back to the Soviet Union when they were battling the Mujahideen. The famous statement was, you may have your guns and your tanks and your missiles, but we have time. The Taliban is just waiting. If there's no real plan for stability and security in the region, the Taliban says, you know, we don't care if we wait 20 years. As soon as you go, we're ready to take over. And the report that you mentioned earlier, Kabul will probably fall in the next 30 days, not be attacked, but actually fall in the next 30 days based on the situation that we've left there on the ground. There's complex issues on how we want to deal with security in that region and having a presence that counters China, counters Russia. But this withdrawal that we're doing now, all it did was open the door and have the Taliban take control.
State Department spokesman Ned Price said yesterday that the U.S. was not abandoning the Afghani people. Listen to Ned Price.
This is not abandonment. This is not an evacuation. This is not the wholesale withdrawal. What this is a reduction in the size of our civilian footprint. This is a drawdown.
Ford O'Connell, talk to me about the Biden administration's plan when they said they wanted to withdraw all the troops. Who is there to provide support for the Afghani people?
Well, it was supposed to be the $88 billion we spent on training the Afghani army, which apparently is under-equipped to actually push back on the Taliban. That said, I think Jesse Jane is absolutely right here, and that is, this is a complete and national disgrace. We may feel sympathy for the Afghan people, but the fact that we're leaving billions of dollars of U.S. equipment behind, Humvees for the Taliban to then use against us as we try to evacuate our own people from an embassy. We literally look like Charlie Brown kicking a football. And the idea that somehow the Biden administration is going to browbeat the Taliban into being some sort of Western democracy through aid of the UN is absolutely ridiculous. And I think Bobby's hit a great point here. What is the Chinese Communist Party going to do in Afghanistan, and how are they eventually going to use the Taliban and our weapons against us?
Yeah, and I also do worry about the humanitarian crisis as well, the women in Afghanistan when it comes to Taliban control. Many questions about their future, quite frankly. Bobby Eberle, Jesse Jane Duff, Ford O'Connell, please stick around. They're our panelists for this hour, and we've got a lot of news to cover.
60th birthday. Apparently, if you're 60, all bets are off.
Well, look, I think Mike's absolutely right. Everyone knows that if you're sophisticated and a Democrat, then you're immune from COVID, and the rest of us rubes have to play by inconsistent and arbitrary rules. So guess what? From now to the end of time, birthday parties, funerals, and weddings can be no more than 10 people. And look, it doesn't really matter because it's Obama. Only Republicans and stupid people have to play by the rules.
Jesse Jane Duff, your thoughts on it is, again, that leaked video, really the only reason why we know about what it actually looked like is because some of the DJs had to post Erykah Badu, which was forced to remove it, but not until those grabbed it off the internet. That's how we know what it looked like inside, Jesse Jane Duff.
Yeah, these limousine liberals have no boundaries. They will get out there and do whatever the heck they want, but then they will try to tell us how to behave. I mean, John Legend was a guest there, and he's out there trying to pitch the COVID vaccine to the Black community. I think he can't even identify with his own community as he flies private jets and goes to elite parties. These people are so detached that when they try to tell the rest of society how to conduct themselves, they remind me of the oligarchs that are in the old Soviet Union or now Russia. And you look at the millionaires in China, that there's more now millionaires because the people that can play with the government and deal with the communism actually can survive. But the people, the average people, cannot. This is just elitism at its finest. They're completely tone deaf at how this presents itself to the average American.
It really is tough, Bobby Eberle, and again, the pictures and photos, pictures and video obtained by Daily Mail, but it really is tough to see the mandates go down in New Orleans, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City, Philadelphia, one of the most recent ones. Now, you can't even go in a restaurant. And that's the thing. Many reporters are asking, okay, you're going to regulate these mandates when you go inside of a restaurant. But what about a private party? What about a wedding? What are you going to do? Are you going to send an enforcer there? Because it didn't happen in D.C. and maybe those rules, actually the rules were in place. Well, in D.C. they were, but maybe not Martha's Vineyard area. But what does the future look like when you have those? Oh, yeah, Ford, go ahead.
Dukes County is where Martha's Vineyard is in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that was a high transmission area, and therefore he was not allowed to actually have a party over 300. I don't besmirch the guy for having the party, okay? I love parties. I'm like you, Sean. But the bottom line is be consistent and make the rules for everybody.
Well, I'm glad we're on the same page with parties. Getting into the weekend. Bobby, I'll go to you on that. Your response.
Well, remember Kate Brown in Washington, she was encouraging people to spy on other people. You were talking about private parties. The left is pushing if you gather and it's not approved, if you're not one of the liberal elite, sophisticated people, go ahead and spy on that person, report them, turn them in. The liberals think that not only are they sophisticated, but somehow the virus is sophisticated, that it only attacks conservative gatherings. It's so bogus, it's so inconsistent. And as Ford said, these are these areas that are labeled this high concentration, high risk due to Delta, and they're having the gatherings anyway. They just totally blow off their own recommendations, their own guidance. But as soon as there's a bike rally in South Dakota, they're all over it. It's just inconsistent, and people need to speak out.
All right, we'll leave it right there, out of time.
We want to switch subjects right here to something a little bit lighter. Lauren, I want to talk about Robin from Batman and Robin comics, who now came out as bisexual. In this latest installment of Batman Urban Legends, Robin accepts an invitation to go on a date with a man. What do you think of the change they're making to Boy Wonder, Lauren?
Well, I don't know about you all, but I actually was a little bit confused. I thought Robin was always gay, so it seems like the change they're making is actually making him more heteronormative. But I think it's interesting that now anytime we hear news from Marvel or DC, at least on my end, it seems to be surrounding some characters' gender identity or their sexuality or race swapping. It seems like comic books, like the rest of the entertainment media, has gone well to the woke side of things, which is too bad because I used to, remember watching Saturday cartoons with a lot of these same characters, and I was kind of interested about them fighting bad guys and things, not really that concerned with what person they were dating. Maybe that's me, though. Maybe the new generation of comic book readers is all about this type of gender identity thing.
Yeah, Lauren, I actually noticed the same observation was made on social media, that a lot of people thought that Robin was already gay. And you're right. Like, it seems like recently, especially Captain Marvel, I mean, there was a ton of media coming out on whether or not she was bisexual or where her sexual preference was. Bobby, what about you, though? Are you a fan of this new comic?
No, I mean, Batman is my favorite superhero. I mean, I love what the Marvel movies did. I loved that whole series of movies was just awesome, very well done. But I'm a DC guy. Batman is my favorite superhero. But again, like Lauren said, everything is going woke. Seems to be the priority right now. The CW, which has all of these superhero shows on there, that's their main agenda is pushing the woke radical left. And it's like, let's just have some entertainment. Let's have superheroes be superheroes. If you want to promote a black superhero, Black Panther, or develop a new one. Someone that is unique and has an awesome story instead of all this racial swapping or gender identity, all of this stuff. Let's leave our superheroes as is and just have some fun.
Right. All right. Bobby Eberle, Lauren Chen, we appreciate you joining us as always. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.